good to be here with you, discuss one of our favorite topics, building high-performance teams. So it's a topic that often captures a lot of interest as we talk to people, particularly in all types of organizations, businesses as well as governments. In our work, we work across boundaries, all kinds of organizations. In the ROI Institute, we show people the value that they deliver. We help them show that, or we'll do it for them. Showing the value. So a lot of what we talk about today will be value. But in this case, it's value from teams, value from high-performance teams. Now, how could you resist having a high-performance team? Everyone would want one. So we'll think about these three issues: how to create them, how to lead them, and how to evaluate them, and particularly in the government setting. The work that we do has been used in over 26 federal governments across the world. We work a lot in NGOs like the United Nations. They've endorsed our work in 2008, and we've been working with them since. We've been putting this process that we're describing here in over 17 agencies now in the UN. But we work in all of the federal government agencies around in DC. So it's good to be here with you and discuss this issue. Today, we want to focus on these issues around high-performance teams. At first, we'll define them, and we'll give you one definition. We probably all have a perception ourselves, but we'll show you one that seems to catch on. And then, how does our current performance management system support high-performance teams? That's important. How does culture support high-performance teams? And we'll look at what you do with executive qualification, executive core qualifications, ECQs. We see how that looks, how that supports this process. And then we'll look at innovation. Innovation is connected here as well. How does innovation work and support high-performance teams? And then we'll look at the leader's role in delivering high performance. And we often do that with programs for a leader to deliver high performance. That may be in the form of a leadership development program. So we show you how that's accomplished there, and even be able to show the results at the impact and ROI levels. So that's where we'll get started. Let's think about a definition for just a minute first. This is one that a lot of people like to use. And it says a high-performance organization achieves financial and non-financial results that are exceedingly better than those of a peer group over a period of 5 years or more. So if you've got a particular group you're comparing to, you want to be beating that group for 5 years or more to be in the high-performance category. And one of those non-financial results is that they have a strong focus on innovation. And we'll see that pop up several times. So I'd like to get an understanding here of where we are with high-performance teams in the government, in the federal government. So here's a poll. We'd like you to respond to this as you see the options here. So what do you think? Not at all? We don't have any here? Maybe few, 10% or less? Maybe about 25%? Maybe about 50% are high performance, and maybe 75% or more. So where are we? Where do you see high performance teams in the federal government here? And now we got the results. So you can see about 25% are high performance. That's a good number, but you've got 13 of you, 21% says maybe 50% or more. And 8% of you says of more than 75%. So we have them, and we know we have them. It's good to see the recognition here, high performance. So let's look at what makes a high performance team. We'll look a little more focused on that issue as we get rid of the poll. We all want this high performance process, and we want our team to produce performance. And so let's think about three things that come together to support this. First, it's the performance management system we have. So we look at performance management systems. And we seem to see that what a lot of what you do supports this. How does that work to support high performance? Then the culture. Does the culture support performance? And we'll see, yes, we seem to see that here. And innovation, does it support performance and to deliver performance? Is that why we have innovation? You see, when you put those together, the intersection of those is going to be a high performance team. If I can get all three of those working together, we got it. That's where we want to be. So at first, let's go to the performance management system in an organization. How do we define performance and review performance? How do we measure it and reward it and appreciate it and recognize it, detail it, have the work performance? So we want to show you something that seems to describe it easily in levels. So first we have inputs to our work. That's the people, of course. That's the hours they work, and it's the cost of having them in the system. That's input. Now, outcomes could be at these levels. And we've kind of evolved over a period of time. We could probably go back and say there's a time when the reaction to the work was our key thing. We want people have a great attitude, a great work ethic, a great spirit, we say. So that was important. Sometimes that was all was needed. And of course, we've evolved. We will make sure that people have the capability to do it. They have skills, certifications, degrees, qualifications, experience. They've got what we need to get the job done. That's what they know. We call that learning, what they've learned to be successful. And we sometimes reward that. But then we moved into defining performance in terms of what they do. And we'll call it application and implementation. That is, using the skills, what they know, using the knowledge, following the processes, performing as they should with a team. So that's level 3, we'll call it. And then what's happened these days is level 4, impact, the consequence. That's the results of what we do. And in every work system, in every organization, in every government office, there's output, quality, cost, and time on any work. So that's now becomes our measurement. What is it we do? The output, even if we're just approving forms, it's output. And then the qualities, the mistakes, error, waste, rework. And the time to do steps, processes, procedures, time, then the cost of doing it. So we have that in our system already. So we're getting more and more performance management systems to focus on impact. That's what we want. Now I have to say this. We see another level coming. You'll see that in these levels a little bit later. There's an ROI. Is this person worth it? ROI. We're actually getting requests these days, particularly during the pandemic, about that issue. We're getting people to say, can you help me show the ROI of having a new person, having a job, ROI on this job? And we say, yes, you can do that. And that's looking at the value of what they do compared to the cost of what they do. So we're not quite there yet in our performance management systems. We may go there someday. But right now, we're trying to get to that level 4 with our performance management. If we focus on that. And what that means is that we have to change our performance management system. And you've changed it. You've seen it. See, look, this is what's happened to us over a period of time with our classic performance appraisal process that's now, of course, labeled performance management system. The executive view, the old way is to look at this, it's a necessary thing to do, but the new way is that it's a business driver. It helps us be successful. And purpose. Too often it was looked at as a way to manage poor performance, to document failures, document inadequate situations. But it really should be for performance enhancement, to improve and drive performance. The review frequency, maybe once or twice a year. You can see frequently is where we're going now. When you hear about an organization eliminating their performance appraisal or performance review process, they're not really doing that. They're just moving it to more routine, methodical, frequent processes. So it's not a once a quarter or once a year or once every 6 months activity. And the rewards are closely guarded. It's now more routine, transparent, and it's based on performance. Design focus, top down versus bottom up. Bottom up is where we need to be. Goals, rigid and specific, maybe previously, but more smart and flexible these days. And documentation. And it's why people hated it in the past so much, because it requires so much documentation. It became very bureaucratic and extensive. What we're moving to is more simplified, more flexible documentation. Business alignment, it was vague. It's getting more specific. And we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Measuring progress, in the past, we might be measuring processes. We now want to measure those particular business measures. Remember, output, quality, cost, and time. And then preparation, we train the managers to do it. Now we train everyone to do it and make it work. So things are changing for the good. Those measures are those goals are so important. So here's the kind of goals for application. That's making sure people are doing what we want. We have this has been dominant for maybe a decade ago. We're moving now to impact. But you can see these are still very specific. They're very smart. We want objectives tied to our performance management system that are important to us, and they're very focused, and they're very specific. They're like objectives with key results. Now, push this to the impact level. That's what we need for the high performance. We want to make sure that we're connecting to business measures. And here are some examples: incidents, infections, fees collected, operating expenses, transaction errors, overtime, complaints, service delivery areas, project time, system downtime, outpatient revenue. The point is, these are impact measures that are critical to the organization, and we tie a performance management system to those objectives. Now, let's just pause for a minute and think about the power of objectives. I want to give you some rules for the objectives and show you a summary of the research, summary of what's happened to us, I should say, in the last 60, 70 years when it comes to setting objectives, setting goals. First, we often want to start with minimum acceptable performance. That's what we put in our goal for performance management system. Fewer is better than many. If you get too many, you get confused, you get lost. And subject matter experts set those objectives. It may be the persons who's delivering the performance and the boss, but it may involve others to decide what's possible in this particular area. And they must be relevant. And we want to bring in the notion of a stretch objective. Yes, this is what we have as a minimum, but if you could do more, that would be helpful. You want to encourage stretch performance. It's the stretch performance that's going to help deliver that high performance team. Stretch objectives. And then we have to change them. Sometimes things get in the way. I suspect the pandemic has caused us to change a lot of our objectives that we have now, because things have changed. We're not able to do some things that we could before. Failure is okay. Process improvement is the key. If we don't make it, we can learn from it so that we can make it better next time. They're tools for progress. They're not weapons for performance review. That is, we don't want to keep beating people up if you're not meeting your stretch objectives, if you're not meeting even the minimum, because there could be some things in the way. We want to see what those are and try to remove them. So it's not a weapon, but a tool for making things better. And we should be time bound on most of our objectives. And we use these often to drive all kinds of processes going forward in between our meetings about performance. Now, just a little context here. if we think about setting objectives, if we have no objectives, some things will occur. The nature of our work drives performance. Even if we didn't have an objective, you'll get there. No objectives gets us some performance, but a vague objective gets us more performance. If we want people to complete projects on time, we could just put a vague objective is that we want projects completed in a timely manner. That's pretty vague. That'll get us more performance than not mentioning the project completions at all. Vague gets us more. But then if we get very specific, that's an objective with a key result, you get more. So we want 90% of our projects to be completed on schedule or early. And the other 10% we want to be 20% under. Something like that. Very specific in terms of performance. We're going to get more. And if we can get them to stretch, we even get more. More performance. This will be our high performance people. This will be, if we have a lot of people stretching themselves, it's going to help the high performance area. So this is important to build the team, is to make sure that our performance management system supports it. Now let's go to culture for a minute. The culture needs to support it. And here's a definition of culture with might be things that we see, that trophies, the paintings that we have in our office, things that we might put in display in our buildings, or even the way we organize our office. That tells us something. And there's written values. We all have cultures, culture statements, culture values. In our organization, we have definition of our cultures, which defines how we want to work with our clients, how do we want to work as a team, how do we want to get the work done, what's important to us, what's valuable to us. Most organizations have that. And basic assumptions. Some of this is unconscious. It's just, you don't talk about it, but you know it's there. Maybe the way that we have conversations, the kind of things that we do, the ceremonies that we have, and the things that are important to us. I remember working with UPS. They have a rule that it's all business formal. You don't wear jeans, even on Fridays there. And you don't see that written necessarily anywhere, but it's just kind of understood. You know that. So you have a lot of these basic assumptions to define that culture. You got to define it. And that's critical. Here's our challenge here. We often want to change it. An organization trying to move to high performance is trying to change their culture to deliver high performance. And it usually involves these things: setting strategy, working our leadership practices and our structures to deliver that high performance. That's the cultural context. Then we're trying to define some behaviors that can reflect high performance. And here's our performance evaluation system is a part of that, aligning the systems with this, our communications with it, and selection and promotion with it, so that we are pushing for the high performance that we want. If we trying to change the high performance to get there. And cultural principles, core values, role models, stories. We love stories. We work with UPS, and in their organization, they have huge vault of stories about how people have gone above and beyond to get those packages delivered. They love those stories, being on time and delivering. So those are processes we use to try to work toward high performance, support high performance, so that we have high performance teams. Now let's look at what we're doing here. If we go to the 5 executive core qualifications, I'd like to just quickly review those. You know those well. But what was interesting to me is that this statement about them clearly points out that they are building the corporate culture that drives results. And they're also used for performance management, as we just described here. So your ECQs support this. Let's look a little more detail. Your first one, leading change, so critical, starts off with creativity and innovation. So you're pushing that, and that's an important part of the high performance team, is having innovation support that. And then leading people, classic issues here, particularly timely with today's environment. And results driven, as you expect. For results driven core qualification, you expect to start with accountability, getting results, delivering results, being responsible for that. And then business acumen, financial management. Remember, a high performance definition is delivering high performance with financial and non-financial measures that are above your peer group for 5 years or more, financial management. And the last one is, of course, building coalitions. So the good news, at least good news as I see it, is that you've got these basic qualifications for the executive service, senior executive service, that supports what we're discussing today quite well. Culture, supporting high performance. Now let's think about innovation. We all want to be innovation. Innovation's everywhere. We talk about it, we live it, we breathe it, we see it, we reward it. Innovation, but where does it come from? It really comes from the employees. We get the mistaken notion sometimes that it comes from the leaders of organizations. Not really. Interesting story, Forbes magazine produced their most innovative organizations. And the one at the top of that was Amazon. And they indicate that Jeff Bezos, the CEO, is the most innovative executive in the world. But when they interview him, he quickly says, I am not that innovative. I support innovation. I encourage innovation. We reward innovation. And I think that's the key. It's the employees that's going to deliver that. And we do that through all kinds of programs. We have innovative teams, we have innovation groups, innovation task forces, we have brainstorming sessions, we have design thinking workshops. We're doing all of these things to drive innovation. And this is usually what we do, to turn employees into innovators. We define it, we explain it, we teach people how to do it, we involve them, and we expect results at the business level. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. Provide time for it, getting them involved in groups. We see this in governments and NGOs, as well as private organizations as well. And we measure success, providing feedback. We reward it. We model these supportive behaviors, and we celebrate milestones. See, it's not unusual for like 20 or 30 kinds of programs to be in place to get employees to be innovative and perform with that innovation. And how do you measure that? Here we come with the same list of value chain here for innovation now. At level 0 is what we put into this. It's the number of innovation projects, the number of people involved, it's the time they're involved, it's the cost of this. And then you have their reaction to the innovation. Do they see it as important? It's valuable to them, it's valuable to the organization. And are they learning what they need to learn to be innovative? If they're in one of these programs, do they know what to do? Are they learning enough to actually be innovative at work in their projects that they may be taking on? And then at level 3, they're actually doing that. They're using some new processes, using some new approaches, trying some new things to make sure it's working. Then there has an impact. An impact is, we got a new way of doing things. We've reduced some major times here. We lowered cost here. Quality is improved over here. We got all of these things that we're putting in place that makes us more innovative because we've got impacts connected to that. And then yes, it could be a positive ROI there. That's what we'd like to see. So we work with the innovation field. That's one of the books that we offer you today. the value of innovation. And one of the interesting things, if you look at this chart, we used to think that in the amount of money you put in innovation was the measure of being innovative. And you can see that in the business world. The stock market would reward the amount of R&D spending. You spend a lot of money R&D, they said you're innovative, we're going to put a premium on your share price. Not anymore. Because what we're saying here, very specifically here, is that level 0 itself is just input. And that will not predict level 4. So what's happening, there's not a correlation in private organizations anymore between the amount of R&D spending and the innovation that's coming out. Why? Because it breaks down at these lower levels. Things break down. They don't see it as important or valuable here. They don't know how to do this very well, or they're not taking steps to develop that innovative approach. They're not coming up with new things. And so we're not surprised that they don't have the impact, and which means that you're not getting enough out of it to cover the cost of it. Innovation. Innovation needs to drive performance. Impact is where we need to be. That's part of the high performance team, is to drive new ways to do things, new ways to function, and making it more efficient, making it more effective along the way. So culture and innovation support it. Now, we're using a chain here. I want to just reflect for a minute, a chain of value. A value chain that really has its beginnings, we think, back to this person, John Quincy Adams. You often see this quote from John Quincy, one of our presidents. In the 1800s, he made this quote, this statement. It's about leadership. It says, if your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and become more, you're a leader. So now we connect that to these levels. Dream more, obviously, is reaction. And then learn more is learning, do more is application, and become more is the impact. Now we'll add the 5th level, ROI, and that's basically saying, is it worth the journey? Is it worth it for the leader? Is it worth it for the follower? That's the ROI question. The ROI question at the top of a lot of this is really, is it worth it? Is what we get out of it worth what we're putting into it? We make that decision almost every day when we make a purchase. Is what I'm paying for it? That's what it's costing me. Am I getting enough value out of it? So that's the ROI issue. We're going to see that show up several ways. So let's think about leadership for a minute. John Quincy is a good person to start with. So this is really a chain of value. It's called a logic flow of data. It's a logic model. It's been used by so many to create all kinds of evaluation systems. In the government, you have a classic logic model that's been there for a long time that has this kind of underpinning on it. So now let's put this in around leadership. Let's keep going with what John Quincy described. So let's think about these levels for a minute. Over on the right side, you've got the levels of evaluation of a leadership development program. If we want to evaluate this leader, this is the level that we're evaluating. How we're reacting to it, the program, or how we're reacting to the leader. Learning is what we're learning from the leader, or what we learn from the leadership development program. Application is what we're doing. What am I doing because of the leader? Or what is the leader doing because of the leadership development program? And impact is the impact that is having, that application. Impact is a consequence of application. And then there's the ROI, is it worth it? So what we see is we'll call these different success levels for leaders. And a level 1 leader is one that's charismatic. The challenge is to make it exciting. The quality is admirable. It's someone that we respect. We're reacting to this person. We've seen that in a lot of leaders. That's an important characteristic. But sometimes it's better if we've got a leader that we can learn from. We want someone who's maybe a teacher. And the key issue there is to make it matter to us so that we will learn it. And then that is that's an intelligent leader. We call them smart leaders because they're teaching us things. Intelligence. Then we have leaders that cause action. Hey, we want to bring big change. We put someone in there that's going to stir things up, we'd say, do things. We want an influencer here. And the key is to make it stick, to make this change stick, to make these actions stick. It's a bias for action. That's what we have in a level 3 leader. But that's not enough. If you just have action without impact, you're just busy. So we want a leader that's going to deliver impact, actually influence others to have an impact. And if they're in a leadership program, they deliver impact from that program. Impact. We call that maybe an impactful leader here. And our key is to make it credible. Make sure that impact is believable, it's credible, it's conservative. And we call this quality results focus. They're really focused on results. But that's not enough these days. We got to make sure it's worth it. Resources are scarce. So we got to make sure that the effort we're putting into it is worth what we're getting out of it. That's the ROI. That is, we want it to cost less than the monetary value we're getting out of it when we convert it to money. That's the ROI as a calculation. Now, we call that a value add leadership quality. The challenge is to make it worthwhile for us, and that's a valuable leader. And that's the of looking at leadership. These days, we need all 5 levels, not just one. We see people get in trouble because they can't deliver. We saw in August, the CEO of HSBC, a large banking system, was fired because he did not deliver the impact. He did not deliver impact, but the employees really loved him. They said, we like this person. They loved him. He just couldn't deliver impact. So that's not going to work. We want all of them to work. You've got to come down to delivering value these days. And a leader of a high performance team has an impact. They're making sure that whatever they do with this team delivers impact. Now, let's think about these levels. It's always there. It's a value chain. For any project, any program, any system, any initiative, any event, any new procedure, any new policy, it's always there. And it looks like this. You've seen this before. You're getting a feel now that this thing seems to permeate everything. You have inputs and you have reaction, learning, application, impact, and ROI. And I remember some work we did with the Social Security Administration in the IT group. They had a huge IT budget, but they were not showing the impact and ROI of that huge budget. And they had some problems, and through some congressional hearings, it came to life that they had a big budget and they were not delivering this kind of results here at impact and ROI. So they were asked specifically, start showing the ROI of this huge budget. When we first started working with them, the budget was $1.9 billion. $1.9 billion. It had already been cut to $1.6 billion. That's $300 million cut. And Congress was saying, unless you can show me the value of the remaining budget, it will probably be cut again and again. So that's a challenge for us to to be able to show the value of what we do. I'm impressed with some work that's being done in the cost-benefit analysis ratio field. There's an interesting book. It's not one of our books, but it's one that influences our work and validates our work. I don't know if you can see this. It's a little book called The Cost-Benefit Revolution. It's written by Cass Sunstein. Now, Cass was the chief regulator for Obama. And he wrote this book talking about cost-benefit analysis. And his premise is this: you should not put in a new regulation or a new program unless you're willing to show the monetary benefits it's giving the taxpayers and compare that to the cost. That's a benefit cost analysis. Well, that's ROI. BCR, the benefit cost ratio, is really another way of saying ROI. It's the same. It's just a little different the way we say it and express it. So ROI is even so important these days. And it's particularly more important on the post-pandemic area because we'll have to do more with less. And we see that already in state, federal, county, and even city, where they're really struggling because of the expenditures they've had with COVID. And now they got a budget shortfall. What are they going to do? They're going to probably be cutting programs. And if you're going to have programs or people that you want to save, hang on to and keep, you need to show the value. That's where we need the high performance teams. We need teams that can deliver. And when we want to improve those teams or build those teams, we usually put the managers of those teams through programs to deliver high performance. That's often called performance management or performance management training or leadership. So when it becomes a program like that, it's often labeled as soft skills. Let's talk about soft skills. I want to see, how do we look at soft skills? Soft skills like team building and leadership, supervisor development, empowerment, those kinds of things, coaching, presenting results, that is communicating. So let's see how you agree with these statements. These are all statements indicating true or false. What do you think in the government here? The first one is most soft skills are wasted. That is, those skills are not used after the program is conducted. Is that largely true, largely false from where you see it? The second one is that soft skills outcome desired by executive is rarely measured. Largely true or false? Third, most soft skills providers do not have data showing that they make a difference. To make a difference, that means you have to have application and impact. They go together. Again, application without impact is just being busy. And then number 4 is that most of our executives see soft skills as a cost and not an investment. And 5 is that executives think that hard skills like STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, is more important than soft skills. True or false? And then 6, what do you think? Do you think hard skill programs bring more ROI, higher ROIs than soft skills? We got lots of studies in our database, thousands of them. We can answer that one pretty clearly. What do you think? Is it largely true, largely false? So we've got this success. Now, you can see the first one says, so you got over half voted, so we're getting close there. We still got a few more. So looks like true is edging it out. Most soft skills are wasted, 56%. The soft skills desired by executives rarely measured. Gosh, 97% says that's true. And then most soft skills providers do not have data showing they make a difference. 81%. Ooh, that hurts. Let's see if I can get this to come down. Look at the next one, number 4. Most executives view the soft skills as a cost and not an investment. Oh, large number there, 76%. And then executives view hard skills as more than, I'm sorry, that hard skills more valuable. Again, largely true. And then the last one, someone tell me the results there for the last one.
Hey, Jack. For the sixth question, it's 41% true and 59% false.
Okay, so hey, that's encouraging. What you're saying is you don't get higher ROIs with the hard skills. We would agree. Most of our studies show that you got the higher ROI for soft skills. And it's probably because of the multiplicative effect. If you've got a leader going through a soft skills program, like developing high performance teams, it's the impact of the team that we're evaluating. That's the money that's coming through this process. And it's compared to training just one person. So that's leveraging with the team. And so it's a multiplicative effect that we have. And that's good news. So what we're saying is this: these should all be false. But there's so many of them true. All are true in your mind, except the last one. You see, it's a problem for us. If we've got a lot of soft skills not delivering value, it's wasted. That means if they don't use it, it's a waste. It's a waste for the organization, at least. And what they really want, the executives, we're not measuring that. That's dangerous, particularly in these times. And if we don't have data that shows we make a difference, then a lot of people are questioning why are we here. By making a difference, that means that they're not using what we have, and there's not having an impact. That's dangerous. So 2, 3, and 4 are dangerous because number 4, they like to cut costs. Executives want to cut costs. They won't cut things that they consider to be an investment. In fact, if they see it as investment, they may want to do more of it instead of less of it. And they're reluctant to cut it. If they see high performance teams program delivering the value, they say, let's do more of this, not less of it. So we've got some work to do, and I'd like to hear from you. Let's go to a little breakout group here. We're going to break out and tackle this issue. See, our problem is that we've got truths when we really need false. So what can we do? What can we do? We're going to break out in some groups and address this issue. Okay. So let's get back together. Could we have some comments from some of the breakout groups? So what are some strategies you see of tackling this issue, dealing with some of the issues we've described here as true when they really want them to be false? All about a soft skills project delivering results. What are some things we could do? Do we have any volunteers?
While we wait for people to unmute to share, Maureen just posted in the chat that their idea to improve is to tell stories of ROI effects, improve and quantify metrics of measuring effect, show data with effect, and then soft skills leads to behavior change, which leads to impactful teams that are productive, have psychological safety, are engaged, and enjoy work. We have some comments saying bake it into recruitment and program/project team selection. Someone says show ROI and use business language.
Yes. So it's about measuring more, having some role models with good stories. It's having even backing up to the selection process of getting people involved who can deliver. changing systems to make sure that this works, educating people about ROI, maybe along the way. I think I saw that in the session. Are there others?
Our group talked about resilience, and especially in times like today, having a good leader that provides support, that makes that connection to the employees, that the employees will remain resilient. And so that's definitely a key thing. And then for an IT department who is stereotypically introverted in a time where IT is in high demand, everybody's a virtual learner, teacher, it's widespread, that the IT department is really having to hone in and learn or relearn those soft skills that they haven't had to be focused on in the past, just because of this shift through the pandemic.
Okay. So it's interesting. We see more focus on soft skills during the pandemic and a need for soft skills than we've ever seen before. And one of the books that we want to offer you is a just published book with ATD, Association for Talent Development, Proving the Value of Soft Skills. And this really gets right at the issue we're describing now as we implement soft skills programs. See, in the context that we're suggesting here is that we'd all like to have a high performance team, and our team must work together quite well to deliver that using all the systems we just talked about. We have to have a good performance management system to support it. We have to have a culture that supports it, and we have to encourage innovation so we can lead to improvements, and that supports it. But there's a lot of things the leader can do. I think that's what I hear you saying, to make this team, support this team to deliver value. And just reminding people that we really need to have an impact in the organization, pushing our work to not just doing something, but to the consequences of doing it. I think I hear a lot of that through this system. Anything else that you see there?
Yeah, for sure. We have a slew of messages coming in talking about how their team talked about the failure to measure soft skills, how they need to have some data showing benefit of soft skills. That way they can help supervisors evaluate the soft skills, maybe do some test groups, one with focus on soft skills, one without, one placebo. We have strategic planning over long term to lead with emotional intelligence and prove through continual employee engagement of the true ROI of soft skills. So lots about metrics.
Okay. So we really need to work on this and show how it works and have examples of how it works. We think because it's soft, we can't measure it. But remember, what we're evaluating here to get to ROI is the impact. It's not putting a monetary value on the skills, but a monetary value on the consequences of using that skill. And that gets us to an impact. We got lots of impact measures throughout the government here. It's just a matter of connecting those soft skills to this. Now, what I'd like to do is to show you a system that's been evolving for some time here. And it's a system that we have that helps us design for the value that we want. It's a proactive evaluation system in the sense that it causes us to think about programs in the very beginning as we formulate the program. Think about evaluation then, not so much at the end, when sometimes it's too late. And then focus on designing for the results that we want through every step of the process. So we're not just waiting to see what happened at the end and feel bad about it, but you're making sure that it's driving this. And so I'd like to show you this very quickly. And then we've got a question that we want to show you. I'll go back to that came up that we need to discuss as a group. This is a process. If you just imagine for a minute, if you're thinking about a soft skill, whether it's empowerment or whether it's hard emotional intelligence or leadership or building high performance teams or mindfulness, whatever that may be, we want to think about starting with the end in mind. So imagine, start with the end in mind. Connect your program to the beginning, to the business in the beginning. Now, we heard Stephen Covey for many years, and his number 2 habit was begin with the end in mind. And we've had Simon Sinek write a book about start with why. And we have others where our partner in Australia likes to use this expression, start with where you want to finish. The points that we're making here is that even for a soft skill, we want to start with a business measure. And it's really what will change if we put this soft skill in place. What is that impact? Better yet, let's start with the impact and see if we can change it with the soft skills. So this is important for this alignment to begin with, to start here, and then make sure we have the right solution. It could be that we need a soft skill like leadership development or building high performance team to correct a problem that we have in our team. And we all have that same measure, but that's the problem, that's our delivery. We could look at that measure and say, can we improve that measure using these particular skill sets and competencies from high performance teams? And that's what we're doing there, is making sure we have the right solution. We have a solution that can drive that performance of the team. But suppose for a minute that we're looking across the organization, all kinds of different departments. They have different measures of outcomes. They have different impacts, not just the same, maybe being a problem. In those kind of programs, it can work quite well too. That is, what you have them do as a leader is coming to a soft skills program, you ask the question, what KPIs do you have? What key performance indicators with you and your team would you like to improve? And they all have them, things that they're looking at, they want to improve. Then we say, can you improve that using these leadership competencies or whatever we're offering here? Can you improve that measure using these competencies? If the answer is yes, I think I can. What they have done is connect it to the solution then. This is important, connecting to the business and making sure we have the right solution. We've all had programs that were implemented that you know was not the right solution. We've probably all been there. We've seen that. We're trying to avoid that here. Then expect success. Expect success means we do 3 things. We define the success of our program is not when we have learning, it's not when we have behavior, but it's when we have the impact. And I think that's where any funder or donor would want to see us be at the end, impact. If it doesn't have an impact, they don't like to sponsor it. They don't like to support it. They don't like to fund it. Impact. So if we define that success, we then set objectives. Just as we talked about earlier, setting objectives for reaction, learning, application, and impact. That shows what we have to accomplish to get there. But we give those objectives. The third thing we do now is to give those objectives to every member of all the stakeholders involved in this program, because we want to deliver results. The designers and the developers, the facilitators, if it's a live in-person program, the participants, the manager of the participants, the owners of the program, the sponsors, everyone gets that objectives, and they do their part to deliver this. This is using the concept of design thinking. You're designing for the results you want because you define the results, the end goal where we want to go, and we're all working toward that in our various processes. It makes a world of difference. So if we can do these first 3 things, it makes life so much better for us. Then we make it matter to them. That's level 1 and 2. We make it stick. That's 3 and 4, making sure that it's used. You remember you said most of the time we don't have data that says it's actually used. We're going to work on that. We're going to design for application and impact. We're going to remove the barriers, and we input enablers, things and tools and job aids and processes to make sure that we can get to that impact that we need, application and impact. Then we sort it out by making it credible. We want to, make it credible by sorting out the effects of our program. Isolate the effects of what this program has delivered from other influences. Sorting out what we've accomplished with this particular soft skills program. And then convert the data to money. See, we have money. It's a cost avoidance in the government. You don't have profits, but you do have cost avoidance. If I can get more productivity out of the team, I've saved some money. If I can reduce waste, errors, rework, I've saved money. If I can reduce the time to do things, I've saved money. So we have opportunity for money here, getting it to money. We want to make sure that that's credible, converting data to money. And then make it credible by putting all of the costs for a program. When you calculate ROI, you want to put the cost of everything related to the program, so it's credible. Then we calculate ROI. We're going to do it two ways. We're going to use that classic benefit cost ratio, which had its origins in governments. Centuries ago, the cost benefit analysis entered government. Recently, in the last 200 years, ROI has been created in business, but there are two ways of saying the same thing. Remember, the benefit cost ratio is just benefits divided by cost. ROI is benefits minus costs divided by cost times 100, so we can put a percent on it. So ROI, it's just like when you put your money in your local financial institution and you get an interest payment. Maybe it's 3% these days. That's your ROI. You put your money in, you get your money back. So that's the benefits would be the money with the interest on it. Your cost would be the money you put in, so the difference would be that small amount, and divided by the original investment times 100, that's going to get you the 3%. 3%, that's for every $1 invest, I get my dollar back plus another 3 cents. Not much, but you can deliver even higher ROIs in governments. We've seen that. A lot of our studies involve governments. You can do this, calculating the ROI. But let's remember the intangibles. A lot of intangibles here of stress and job satisfaction and job engagement, maybe, image, things that are important to us, but we're just not going to be able to convert them to money. Collaboration, teamwork, those kinds of things. If we cannot convert it to money credibly, we leave it as an intangible, but we got to make sure it's connected. That's what we do there. Then we have a story to tell. We've got stories now. Stories are important. Narratives and numbers is what we need. You get the narratives, you get the stories from the data that we collect along the way for reaction, learning, application, and impact. They'll give you stories. They'll write comments on questionnaires. They give you stories in interviews. You hear them. You want to present them, but you've got data now, data that helps people understand the success of the program. And we're going to use that to make our programs better. We use a concept of black box thinking, which is comes from the aviation industry. As we all know, when a plane crashes, we have the black boxes. You've got the voice data recorder and the systems recorder. They tell us why the plane failed, why it crashed. And then we use that to make it better. We change designs, we change processes, we change procedures, we change training. We do all kinds of things to make sure that doesn't happen again. We need that same thinking here, make our programs better. See, if we will optimize our results by constantly doing doing process improvement, we're optimizing the investment that we have. And if you can optimize the investment, you make a good case for funding. So you can see the box ends here. Starting with why, start with a business need, and then we use the results to drive more budget in our direction. That's what we have to do, particularly as things get tight. So that's the process that we'd suggest. This follows some standards. They're called guiding principles. We'd be happy to send you some more information on this as we go forward. I'd like to go into Q&A. One question we had was, if our performance management system is nothing but checking boxes, how can we turn that into a meaningful process that's going to help the individuals. I think I worded that, if I worded that properly. So let's do this. Let's go back to our performance management system for just a minute. That particular slide. And here's what's happening. You see, this is an organizational decision to a certain extent, but it's also individual manager decision as well. You see, it's how we want to use our performance management system. Is it a business driver? We want it to be. You can do that at the manager level. Is it trying to enhance performance? Can we meet more often? It might be possible. It might not be a problem in your organization to meet more often, to review more often. There may be an annual review that's required. That's the check in the boxes. But there's some things that we can do to make it work for us. We can set goals from it, and we can reward that performance. So sometimes it's up to us to try to make our current performance management system better. Everyone has this problem, essentially. I remember a project we had with the International Civil Aviation Authority. That's a UN agency based in Montreal. And we met with the executive director there, and here's what he told us. He says, we have a performance management system here that the employees hate and the managers hate it. And because it's not working, we hate it, the executive staff. We all hate this. And let's look at what do we need to do to make this better, to make this work for all, so we all are making it successful and we don't all hate it so much. And so we looked at what was going on and how it was used and what it should be doing, getting input from the employees and the managers, and it almost mirrors what we're doing here. A lot of it was on the left side, what's happening there. A lot of it needed to be on the right side, making it completely different. And they did that, and it makes it a lot better. You remove a lot of the frustration. So that's my thoughts on that particular comment. I'd like to go to see if we have other questions as we go to Q&A.
Yes, we have one more, and that's from Eric. Eric asks, what are soft skills, and what's a better phrase / term for it? What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, that's a good question. It sounds not that we call it soft, it doesn't sound important to us. So some people would even say, why do we even call it that? Why don't we just call them skills and quit calling one hard and one soft? The hard skills are usually referred to, let's look at several different scenarios. One of them is job-related work, following tasks, processes, procedure, doing the work that you do, following systematic processes. That's often called a hard skill, not a soft skill. Now, some of our work involves communicating, interacting with people. When you have interpersonal communications, interpersonal part of the job, then that gets into the soft area. It's soft because you got people involved, and you've got conversations involved, and you've got behaviors involved. Also, some people look at hard skills as programs involving STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Soft skills involves things like empowerment, emotional intelligence, even meditation, like mindfulness. So soft is often those kind of programs, from leadership development to team building to communications to decision making, critical thinking. Those kinds of things are often labeled soft skills. We go through some definitions, and we look at where it comes from. As with so many things, the origin of the word soft skill actually came out of the military. They were classifying skills, and they began to call some of them soft and some of them hard. So that's the first definitions we see coming out of government. So we understand we probably are doing harm and labeling them soft. We should just call them whatever skill it is. Other questions?
Yes, just give me a moment. We have another one asking, how do we avoid stretch goal burnout? What's in it for the employee in terms of stretch goals?
Good question. A stretch goal needs to be voluntary with the person. If it's forced on them by the manager, that's a problem. A person has to say, I have an opportunity to do more, and I'm willing to do that and give it a try. The manager can support them and encourage them, but not require it. If we require it and there's a consequence if we don't meet it, then we cause a bigger problem. If people don't meet their stretch goals and it shows up on their performance review, performance discussion, the lesson there is never set another stretch goal. So we don't want to put too much pressure, because you can get the burnout. If you feel pressured without people telling you, you feel pressured to do more, to stretch ourselves. That burns people out. So and the managers and leaders have to make sure they're not creating an informal requirement for people to stretch themselves. So it gets back to leaders and managers making a difference here and not abusing that, but using it and encouraging it and support it, but let it happen, but don't force it and don't penalize if it doesn't happen. It's a good question there. Other questions?
Thank you so much,
Again?
Chad. And we have one just in regards to the session as a whole. Does results-based management fit into all this?
Yes. Results-based management means we start with results and we work toward results. Now, it depends on how you define results. These days, most definitions of results-based management would peg it at level 4. That is, we want that impact. So we manage to that. We put our systems to drive that. When you look at your executive core qualifications, it says you drive results. And you want accountability. And you got one of those categories is business acumen. And so you want to connect to that business part of the government. Output, quality, cost, and time, again, are 4 categories of hard data that are there in any work unit, in any organization. Those are what we would call the business measures. So results-based management is usually aiming toward those, making sure that we have results all the way through the process. But it also can start with that in mind and design for it, just as we described it. You could look at what we just described as a results-based evaluation system that not only measures success, but it delivers success by designing for success. Results-based is the key term. So it fits in quite nicely with what we're describing. Remember, we're trying to look at high performance teams, what causes them, what supports them, how to create them. It looks like we've got a lot of those in the government, and we probably need more of them. And if you manage a team, if it's high performance, if we can show the value of that team in terms that are very understandable and clear to executives, and that uses impact and ROI, we stand a much better chance of keeping our team, maybe even getting more funding for a team, because we're delivering some results. We're perceived as an investment and not a cost. If it's a cost, it's easy to cut it away, reduce it, freeze it, pause it. If it's an investment that's yielding a return, we might support it more, we might enhance it, we might encourage it more. So that's where we want to go. Any other questions?
Yes, we have one from Kurt. They asked, if the firm's focus is purely on financial results, how practical is it to build high performance teams? And what incentive is there for the employees?
Yes. Well, first, it's a good question. ROI is not something you do for everything that we implement. Let's think about a learning and development program for a minute that spans all kinds of learning. There would be only, in our recommendations, only about 10% of those programs would be good candidates for measuring at the impact level, and only half of those at the ROI. ROI, the financial part of it, is reserved for those programs that are very expensive, those programs are very strategic, programs that should be making a difference, programs that attract the management's interest. So we're not doing ROI on everything, so we don't want to do that. That would be paralysis by analysis, because we're just bogged down. We don't want to do that. For IT groups like the one at the Social Security Administration, we suggest there, of all of their projects, IT projects, and they have hundreds of them every year, you only take maybe 10% of them. If you had 100, that means 10 projects connected to the business, and maybe half of them ROI. And so again, you select those based on how important they are, how expensive they are, how strategically focused they are, and the interest that they would attract. So you don't want to have too much focus on the financial aspects. Remember, this is 6 types of data, not just one. ROI is only one of the 6 types. You've got reaction that we want, that's important. We've got learning, that's critical for our teams. And we've got behaviors and application, things that we're doing, working together as a team. That's so important. Then we got impacts, not money yet, but just impacts, which is what we see in our KPIs and our scorecards, impacts. Then we have ROI. ROI is only one of those. It's not the most important one, maybe. Then we have intangibles. It's those impacts that couldn't convert to money. That's collaboration, teamwork, stress, communications, coordination.
There is basically 2 big directions, between and within.
Everybody, if you don't mind muting.
Remember, 6 types, not just one. Let's don't put too much emphasis on the ROI, but it's the other measures that's going to make a difference here. That's a good point.
Thank you so much, Chad.
Other question?
Yes, we have a couple more. Another person asks, a lot of the skills for high performance teams are people skills. Why do you think there's not more focus on this?
Well, that's a good question. That's sometimes my question, because I see soft skills delivering more value for the investment, higher ROIs. I see them as more valuable than the hard skills. You see, it's the most innovative organizations, it's the most sustainable organizations, it's the most admired organizations, and it's the great places to work, all created by soft skills. And if you want performance, it's your high performance teams that's going to get that. And yes, soft skills are going to get that. So one of our challenges is to convince executives that soft skills are more important. And if you want to build a great organization, you need to focus on that. But they seem to know that intuitively. But what we need, and they need, is more data that convinces them. Yes, if I spend all of this money, I'm getting something at the end. Results. We waste money sometimes. We waste money on soft skills sometimes when we shouldn't. And they hear about that, or they know that. So we want to make sure that we get there. So I think that's a challenge we have to make, is spend more time convincing. And this is one reason we published this book. This is as much for executives as it is for people delivering soft skills, proving that soft skills make a difference. It has case studies in there, but it's also how do you do it? And it talks about the importance of it. We've got some educating to do. And it shows up in what you just gave us in the poll, that executives see soft skills see hard skills as more valuable than soft skills. We got our work cut out for us. Great question. I think we've got drawing for some books that we need to do. Do we have any more questions? I think we have time for another one. maybe one
Yes.
more?
Jack, we have a couple. So since we are a little pressed for time, we want to be mindful of the 4:30 end time. We will be sure to send out a list of the remaining questions, make sure that Jack answers them, and then it will be posted on our webpage. I just posted the link in the chat box. And the last question is, can you give us an example of the differences between a non-high performance team versus a high performance team? Thank you so much.
Yes, it would probably be lower levels of performance, particularly at the impact level. If you remember, this one particular group defines a high performance team as that if you got a group of peer organizations that you're comparing to, you're for 5 years in a row, you've got above average from financial and non-financial. Financial is ROI, or at least the way we manage our financial. You know, financial is part of your executive core qualifications. It's in there. But the non-financial is very important as well. That's the measures that we don't convert to money. So I say a low performance team just doesn't deliver on the impact measures. They just don't seem to get things done. They may be late. They may make a lot of mistakes. They may have errors. They're inefficient in what they do and just can't get it done so well. We probably have seen that, but we're trying to have that high performance team that delivers on the impact. And if you want to know the efficient use of the funds, you take it on up to the next level, and that's ROI. That's a financial measure, but you can see a lot with just the impact. Most of the government examples that we involve with, impact would probably do it for them. ROI is there because someone wanted to see, okay, I'm spending this. I want to see what we're getting out of it. It's a good way to compare. It's the ultimate accountability when we get there. So substandard at level 4 would be the short answer to that.
Yeah, we do have a question just regarding the branding and the language surrounding soft skills, particularly soft. I know our participants were discussing about that, so maybe you can speak to what would be the next steps for, I guess, rebranding or remarketing soft skills. Should we still keep it soft skills? Should we move on to maybe, you know, personal skills, or just keep it at skills? What do you think, Jack?
Okay, so what we can do is to, and I'd be happy to send you some information on the proving the value of soft skills. We'll take some excerpts out of this book and some of the content from this book and send it to you, along with a case study maybe out of here showing you that, or a case study out of governments showing a soft skill application. One of those is in that book is from the government sector, but we can show you that, show you how it's working, and show you this methodology, how it fits into the government space so well. That's going to be chapter 4 out of this book called Value for Money here. So we'll send you chapter 4 here, some information about soft skills here, and then a case study that's showing this. We can also send you some information about our programs. If you want to know more about soft skills, here is one way to do it. We've got a one-day virtual workshop on ROI in the public sector. It's showing you this methodology in the public sector. We also build capability through our certification. This is detail learning, and everyone takes a particular program and that you want to measure the ROI, and you follow it right on through. We stay with you until you get the ROI study completed, and then we issue the certification, Certified ROI Professional. Over 6,000 people have that designation, and about 1,000 or more of those are from the government. So a lot of people there in that process. We also do that face-to-face. We've got a face-to-face session coming up in Nashville in November, and we've got others scheduled already for next year. They're there. You get some more tools and templates if you want to go to this particular website, ROI Institute Academy. can join level 0. You get some tools, case studies, and information there about ROI. We won't keep bugging you. You can actually unsubscribe after you've got those tools if you'd like. And let us know if you have any questions. You see our email address. You've got Melissa's, melissa@roinstitute.net. So anything we can provide you to help with this journey of performance, particularly with soft skills programs driving that performance.
Thank
Other
you so
questions?
much, Jack. I think we are good to go. The remaining questions we'll be sure to send to you for you to answer, and then we can post it on the webpage. Thank you so much again for your time, your content today. It really means a lot to the Key community and also to just Key FEDTalks and ISPI as well. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. And thank you for attending today. We appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening.